Let's begin with Salesforce developer course. Are you excited? Excited? Sure. There's only one in left in here. Uh, exactly. So the major concern over here is there are so many opportunities out there for developers as compared to administrators. So if you go into the market, especially in India, 95 jobs out of 100 are of a developer rather than of an administrator. Anyone can tell me why? Exactly. So it's good to have a driver who can cook. Getting it? I mean, you might be thinking it as demeaning, but I'm just trying to give a metaphor. Like it's good to have a gardener who can also plant the trees, right? So it's a job of a gardener to plant the trees as well. But administrator is someone who takes care of the plants, but developer is someone who can like plant new trees as well or new plants as well. So that's what the thing is. And if you can have one gardener who can do both of the things, it's easier, it's cost effective, and it's beneficial for the organization. You do not have to look for someone else to do that particular thing. So that's basically the reason to learn Salesforce development. Salesforce develop. So like now let's talk about this question once again. Is it important to learn Salesforce administrator in order to be a Salesforce developer? Yes or no? It is definitely required. Let me tell you why. Because in Salesforce, what happens is there are two types of development that happens, right? Number one, point and click tools, which we call as declarative approach. Right? That basically means that you do not actually have to write a single line of code in order to create an application, in order to do some customization. You can just do it by point and click. And those who know Salesforce Administrator, most of you know Salesforce Administrator, you know that we can do a lot of things just by point and click. We do not actually have to write a single line of code for that. But there are still some things for which we have to write the code, right? And that we call as programmatic approach. Programmatical approach. Okay. Programmatic approach. So let's talk about programmatic approach. When you want to create an application on top of Salesforce, when you want to create an application on top of Salesforce, you have to write down code as well sometimes. So the thing is, if you'll only learn the development part and you're not aware of the declarative part or the point and click tools, you'll always try to do the things with the help of code, right? You'll always try to do things with programmatic approach or programmatical approach. Give me a second. So we were talking about the programmatic approach, pardon for the disturbance that happened. We're talking about the programmatic approach, and there is declarative approach as well. So unless until you know very well about the declarative approach, you should not try and go and do the things only because of the with the programmatic approach. So basically, what it means is like if I can do anything with the help of point and click tools, I should not write the code at all. And why I should not write the code at all? Because I mean, yeah, because there are governor limits in Salesforce. There are different types of code limits in Salesforce, and also whenever you write the code, there are multiple implications for that. You have to write the test classes. You have to make sure that it is working well. It is not doing something that will corrupt your data or that will make any problem in your application or in your system. All of all of these things you have to take care of while you're writing the code. But with the help of point and click tools, it's not the case. You just develop it and you just test the functionality that whether it is working according to your expectations or not, and then that's done. So that's basically what is the difference between programmatic and declarative and programmatic approach. And always try to go with declarative approach, and if and only if it is not possible with the declarative approach, that means the point and click tools, then only try to go with the programmatic approach. Up till now we have done a lot of things with the declarative approach or the point and click tools. Now we'll talk about what what kind of code do we have to write down in order to create the application and yeah, do multiple stuff. So in Salesforce we write down the code in different languages. Number one is Apex. Anyone heard about Apex? What is it? It's a programming language based on Java, similar to Java, right? It's okay. So it's a programming language which is similar to Java, 90 to 95% similar to Java, and it is a proprietary language of Salesforce. That means Apex only compiles, executes, and runs, compiles and executes and interprets only onto the Salesforce or Force.com servers. Nowhere else. You cannot actually install or download a compiler of Apex onto your own system, and you just want to compile the programs of it. It's a proprietary of Salesforce, whereas Java is open source. So these are two different languages, but the syntax of Apex programming language is 90% similar to Java, right? Okay. Now let's talk about it. Like why and when we're going to use Apex. When we're going to use Apex. Exactly. So, but in which situation? Like, will we write down the Apex code to create a new UI? We'll write down the Apex code to write the business functionality or the business logic. So Apex is basically used to write down the business logic. And in the MVC architecture model, which layer or which part contributes to business logic? Controller, right? So Salesforce is completely based on to MVC architecture, which is model view controller, and Apex is used to write the business logic, which is basically like Apex is used to write the controllers, right? So that's what it is. Now next, then there is another language. Visual Force. Okay. How many of you have heard about Visual Force? Only few? Okay. So tell me, what is Visual Force? Which kind of language it is? Hmm? It's not a scripting language. What is the full form of HTML? Exactly. Visual Force is a markup language, not a scripting language. It is used to build the UI, a custom UI for Salesforce, right? So Visual Force is basically used to create a custom UI or to customize a user interface. Is it clear? Okay. Uh, Visual Force is similar to HTML. Not exactly, not 90% as well, but it is similar to HTML. So, like, have you guys, ever written an HTML page? What do? We open a tag, we write something down, and then we close the tag. That's exactly how we do and how we build UI on HTML. That's the same way we're going to build UI or user interface in Visual Force as well, which is going to run onto the Salesforce platform only, right? I mean, the execution of the interpretation of Visual Force is going to happen onto the Salesforce platform, and then the HTML will come as a result and will be sent to the client. Uh, in the case, I'll talk about Visual Force deeply when we'll go to that particular topic or go to that particular chapter. But it's basically very, very simple. There is Salesforce as an application. There is Salesforce as a platform where the model is the database, which is already pre-built, and we can modify whatever we want to modify into that model just by point and click tools. We do not need any programming language for it. Then if we want to modify the business logic is basically interacting with the database, showing the results in a particular way, executing something. All of these things comes under business logic. So if you want to write code for business logic, we're going to use Apex. And if you want to create a customized UI, then in that case, we're going to write down. And all of these three will be connected to each other, right? So that's how architecture of an application in Salesforce works or looks like. And architecture is, again, I mean, MVC, model view controller. Is it clear? Okay. Then comes Apex Visual Force. So there is something else as well which has come into Salesforce from 2016. Lightning. Okay. So can anyone explain me what is Lightning? Sorry. Updated part of Classic. I mean, okay. Anything else? What is Lightning? What is Lightning? What is Lightning experience? Exactly. So it's a new user interface, or I should preferably call it as new user experience, right? Lightning is a new user experience that Salesforce has rolled out in 2016. Salesforce was doing very good as a CRM application, as a CRM platform, but the only problem that it had was uh, the UI was like looked outdated and it was not mobile responsive. Then Salesforce thought that we should come up with a new UI, which is similar to Angular JS and stuff like that. And this they created their own. They created their own framework like Angular JS and Node JS. So there is a mean stack framework, right? Similarly, there is Lightning framework that they created, which is used which is used to provide a better user experience or better user interface to our end users. Getting it, which is mobile responsive as well, which is which looks good. That's exactly what it is. So yeah, if we'll go to Salesforce Classic, there are two UIs in Salesforce up till now. One is Salesforce Classic, and another one is Salesforce Lightning, or you can call it as Lightning Experience, right? So Lightning is also used to develop UI, and by the way, part of controller part as well with the help of JavaScript, right? Visual Force is completely used to create UI, nothing else. But with the help of Lightning, we can write down the controllers as well with the help of JavaScript and UI definitely. So that's what it is. Make sense? So these two UIs can interact with the same Apex code and with the same model, and that's the beauty, or that's the benefit of having an MVC architecture. Is that clear, everyone? Okay. So Apex, Visual Force, and Lightning. These are the three main things on which we are going to focus on in our Salesforce development course or in this particular training module. We're going to learn like it from scratch, starting from what exactly Apex is, what are the data types, stuff like that, till everything complex till integrations, APIs and integrations into Apex or into Salesforce, including Lightning, Visual Force, and everything. So I'm gonna, share you the complete course structure. Uh, Complete course structure in which we're going to talk about what all topics we are going to cover up. If you guys have got any questions before starting it, then just let me know. Governor limits. Okay, so do you live in an apartment or do you live in a house? In a house, hostel. So in a hostel, is there a dedicated water tank for you? No. There's common for everyone. So what if you open the tap and you let it loose? There'll be no water left for other hosteliers. There'll be no water left for other hosteliers. So don't you think that's a problem? So so like let's say you're the warden of that hostel. What would you do in this situation? Like people are opening up the tap and just leaving the water just like that. Allowed everyone a different water tank. Are you serious? Don't you think that's gonna add on to the cost? Then I don't think you're a good warden. What else you can do? Exactly. You're going to put a restriction on water usage. So on every tab, you're just going to attach a simple device, which is going to say if this water tap is going to deliver only 20 liters a day or only 50 liters a day, not more than that. So that's a limit. Even though there is water in the water tank, but you cannot use more than 50 liters. And why we are putting that limit? So that everyone gets the fair share of the shared resource. That's exactly what governor limits is. So our code gets executed, compiled, everything onto the Salesforce server, and so what if I run a code which takes forever? In that case, Salesforce needs to take care that the resources are not getting monopolized, right? Monopolizing of resources is not happening. So in that case, they put different governor limits. Got it? Anyone else? We're going to talk about that in our first chapter, Apex Basics. I'll leave it to till then. Anything else? So it's simple. It's very simple. Like first you save the code, it gets compiled. It gets compiled in a bytecode format or in a compiled Apex format. And when you execute that, there is an interpreter which runs or interprets that code and gives you the output. There is. We're going to talk about that in Apex Basics. We'll leave it to them. Anything else that you guys want to know or have a question about? No. Let's move on to what is our course structure. What are the chapters that we're going to cover up and what exactly we're going to discuss in those chapters, right?